Dr. Barnes! He spun around to find a man staring up at him from the dig site, a tall man with a straw hat over his head. You need to come down here, sir, the fellow went on. There's something you should see. The trek down to the dig site only worsened his annoyance. These idiots tended to call him when they found a stone that looked like an arrowhead. It was highly unlikely they had produced anything useful. He found Crawford standing with 2 other men next to a hole in the ground with piles of upturned earth nearby. The wiry fellow was nodding quickly as he spoke to one of the other workers. Scrubbing a hand over his face, Kenneth frowned and blinked a few times. I take it you have found something? He felt his mouth tighten, shut his eyes, and shook his head. Another arrowhead, Mr. Crawford? The man went red in the face, then lowered his eyes to the ground. Well, sir, no. He scraped a knuckle across his forehead. You're going to have to see for yourself. There are no words. Kenneth stepped forward. In the hole, he found a triangular piece of metal that would stand as tall as a grown man when set upright, with sinuous grooves running over its surface. The sight of it held him transfixed. Clamping a hand over his gaping mouth, Kenneth squeezed his eyes shut. This is not right, he said, shaking his head. Call Captain Langford down here. I want a report on anyone who set foot on this dig site. Sir? The red light of the setting sun glimmered on the triangle's reflective surface. This thing was man-made, Kenneth went on, which tells us someone put it here. So unless you think the hunter-gatherer tribes of Eastern Africa had secret knowledge of metallurgy, someone has been tampering with our work. 1,000 tiny stars twinkled in the night sky, and the quarter moon provided more than enough light for Kenneth to make out the pits and piles of dirt scattered throughout the dig site. Up on the ridge, tall grass swayed in the breeze. The men had gone to their tents hours ago. Kenneth was still awake. The triangle had been stood upon its base in the middle of the dig site, moonlight reflecting on its surface. He found himself fascinated by the sight of it. The discovery they had made yesterday had set everyone in the camp abuzz with theories on its origin. Miss Lawrence was beside herself. Lifting a mug of coffee in one hand, Kenneth closed his eyes as steam wafted over his face. At least the woman kept quiet. He brought the mug to his lips and took a sip. A day of silence is its own reward. Kenneth stepped forward. Nibbling on his bottom lip, he lowered his eyes to the ground. Now, how long do I have with you? He asked, creases forming in his brow. Before someone carries you away to some dusty storeroom. The triangle stood silent and ominous, silver moonlight reflecting on its top corner. An archaeologist's dream. That was, of course, if the bloody thing wasn't just some hoax perpetrated by disgruntled Kenyan natives, or possibly the Mau Mau. They would do just about anything to make the crown look incompetent. He clasped his chin in one hand, then shut his eyes tight. With my luck, you'll be appropriated by some hotshot from MI6. The thought left him feeling disgruntled, so they can hide you away before rumors spread. Some of the more colorful tales circulating through the camp involved little green men from Mars depositing this thing in the middle of the African grasslands. Nothing but the products of unrestrained imaginations, but Kenneth did nothing to discourage his men from sharing those theories. It wasn't his job to. The triangle began to hum. Half a moment later, the grooves along its surface began to glow with fierce white light. Little green men indeed. A gnawing sense of terror in his belly commanded him to run away, but he couldn't. He approached. Shielding his face with one hand, Kenneth peeked at the thing through the cracks between his fingers. Hello? He called out. Can anyone hear me? Hello? My name is Dr. Kenneth Barnes of the... When he got within 3 feet of the triangle, a bubble formed around his body. A perfect sphere of rippling air that made it seem as though he were viewing the dig site through a curtain of falling water. The ridge was a shadowy blur off to his right, rippling and wavering. Heaven help me, Kenneth whispered. He was pulled into oblivion.